Welcome to Rooted Within with Lili and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers, sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.
Lili, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, actually. It's been a very productive week.
It's been a very productive week.
It's been a crazy week.
And it's been crazy. And I know our podcasts go out at different timings, but for us, it's post-Middle East adventure, isn't it?
Which was slammed, which is very, very eventful.
But I think we did pretty well. Really good feedback. It was good fun. Met
nice.
lots of people.
We did indeed.
Speaking of people.
Yeah, today we have Zainab Al-Salih, who is joining us in our studio. Welcome, Zainab.
Hi, thanks, Dan and Lili. It's so nice to be here with you.
It's incredible to have you here. And also, as well as we talk about events industry, you are part of that events industry as well,
Yes,
which we'll
I
get to
am.
in a second. I know we're not jumping forward.
No, but we can because it's a happy part of the event world.
Weddings.
It's a different kind of event.
Yeah.
It's a whole different, ball game.
Which I'd like to get to know a little bit more, especially in this region. Weddings are huge.
It is.
I've got some questions about
How
that.
do you stay sane is my first question.
Well, you have to love what you do, right? I mean,
We
you know
love
that
what we
being
do as
part
well,
of the events
but-
industry, but you have to have special skills to do weddings in particular, I think.
What
Like
are those
diplomacy.
skills?
Politics
I was
and
going to say, what
diplomacy.
are those skills?
Yes, politics.
I just think of the mother of the bride or the mother of the
having,
groom.
that kind of, more calm demeanor. You also have to have a lot of compassion.
Yeah.
And be patient.
Because for most people, this is literally the most important day of their
It is,
lives.
and it's very personal.
Yeah.
Which is quite different to when you're planning.
It doesn't really get more personal than that, does it?
Exactly.
And also as well, you just think of the nuances of like politics, families, sometimes often quite dysfunctional
Yes.
organizations.
Have you had any moments where it's like, that's it, I'm not, call it off? And have you had to be the middle?
With the clients.
clients.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't part of any of that. I mean, we have had last minute kind of breakups.
Oh, wow.
But I've been doing this for 15 years. It's happened twice. So
That's not too bad. It's a
that's
fairly,
not
fairly
bad.
good success rate.
Before even arrive, like coming down the aisle?
No, not that catastrophic.
okay.
No, it's like, in the weeks leading up. So not as bad as like right before you're walking down the aisle.
And what was the reasons why they didn't
To be
continue in a
honest,
relationship?
It's very interesting because, I've been doing this long enough and I think I have, I can read people quite well.
Okay.
And I can see the dynamics, of course, because I'm really part of such an intimate part of their life as well. And I'm privy to a lot because of, how close I get to the couple and, the bride and I start to see signs where I'm like, okay, this is not really going in the right direction. And sometimes I can tell when they're not a right fit.
Got you.
Yes, I sometimes
And you have
can
to
see.
stand by and watch them walk down the aisle sometimes.
Sometimes, but you know what? I think weddings bring out a very particular side of people. I
The
think
best
there's
and worst, probably.
Exactly, the best
in the
and
nicest
worst.
possible way.
And, because there's so much pressure and there's so much at stake and, everybody wants everyone to be happy and, you can start to see how, people interact and what the dynamics are. And sometimes you wonder, if this is going to work out. And there has been, I would say, a couple of times where I was like, okay, I'm not sure they're making the right decision here because I don't see that they're a right fit. And yeah, sure enough, I think that ended up.
Destiny played its role.
Yeah.
So are the mothers the biggest sort of, like there's Bridezilla and then there's the mother?
To be honest, I mean, that always comes up. That's a question that always I get asked, like, oh, bridezilla. And I'm like, you know what? I've never really had a bridezilla.
Oh, wow, you're lucky.
I have never really had, I mean, you get people that get emotional, get
In particular.
challenged in particular. Those are all fine. But like bridezilla, where people are out of control, I think they're, I always say that bridezillas are made and not born.
Yeah.
And most of the time when a bride turns into a bridezilla, it's because she's frustrated.
because the event handler is not doing their job.
If you're not doing your job and, they don't feel heard or they don't feel like you're paying attention to them and their needs. And they do want more attention than a normal.
their special day.
It's their special day. And you have to understand that.
Yeah.
So if they get a little bit, emotional or needy or they feel like, they want your attention, attention a little bit more than just a client planner relationship, and they want you to just be there as a friend, you have to give them that.
I'm guessing at some point you become almost like a therapist in a way.
You do.
Because there's
You do.
times, I think brides, I'm going to grooms as well,
Yeah,
the
I
men
was
as
going to
well.
say, do you think that to get into this area, you need to have a high level of empathy and EQ?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
It helps you.
Exactly. You have to. You have to, because again, it's a very emotional time. It's a roller coaster of emotion. You're embarking on a new life. You're trusting your life with a new person. You're, in some instances, still getting to know them. With certain cultures where you're not allowed to date for a long time.
Very true, actually.
So you're going through a lot, and then you have pressures from his family, your family, and you're having to navigate all of that. A lot of times, people are juggling work and other personal issues in their life. So you really have to be understanding. And if someone might lose their temper with me, or they're short, I'm not going to take it personally, because life happens. And at the end of the day, I'm part of such an important part of their life that I am bound to have that kind of run-in with them. It's not like we're having a cup of tea and in half an hour. No, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So who did your wedding? Did you have comms as part of your own wedding outfit?
No, I come from the generation where in this part of the world, the wedding is planned by family members, and a lot of family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles.
How is it managing all of those opinions?
Oh, it's
The
not
most
easy.
senior person
It's
wins.
not
That's why
easy.
I often think when people talk about, wedding producers or planners, you're basically like a UN peacekeeper.
Yes,
You're a
yes.
politician, essentially.
Because, everybody has a different opinion.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different approach to how they want this to play out, basically. And a lot of times I end up, for me, my priority are the couple.
Yeah.
And my job is to make sure that I bring their dream wedding to life, not the mom's dream wedding or an aunt or a cousin. So I am always, first and foremost, I'm loyal to my couples. But of course, I do understand that, like you said, there's politics involved, and I do have to make everybody happy. But I have a way of making people think like it was their idea.
Which is the best way.
Yeah. And, it's like I'm steering them in the direction that I know will
Human
make the
chess.
couple. Yes, exactly.
Human chess.
Slight, manipulation into
We call
achieving
it,
what you
we
need to
call it
achieve.
human
Yes.
chess.
And ultimately, that's how it works. You have to make sure that everyone feels heard and thinks,
And valued.
and that you are taking everything that they're saying into consideration, and you are producing it in the best way possible. Of course, there is that element of trust when my clients hire me, that they trust that I know what I'm doing. And that's very important, because if they can't trust me, I can't do their wedding.
Yeah, of course.
So, and a lot of times they have to listen to what I have to say. You might like something, but it's not going to work. And I will do everything and anything you want me to, as long as I know that it works and it's not going to compromise.
Yeah.
You
the
got
end
their
result.
best interest at heart, don't you?
Exactly. So
Well, let's rewind a little bit.
I was going
Oh,
to say,
go ask
No,
your
no,
question.
I was going to say, let's
you about to
rewind. Yeah. No, because
We're
we've
getting in
obviously,
sync.
we are, because obviously we've heard about your story for now, but you were not always in the world of weddings.
I was not. No, I went to business school.
Okay.
I studied finance.
But hold on, just take it one further step back. When you were a kid, did you ever think about weddings?
No.
Nothing, because you know how some I wasn't that way.
I've heard about the stories of like girls wanting to wear wedding dresses and play
they're
weddings.
dressed from the beginning. They
Yeah.
plan their wedding, the whole lot. They know their song. I never
Really?
did. I don't. It wasn't me.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted
So it wasn't
to
Zainab
ask. Like,
either.
was it something that was there in
No.
childhood and then it came out later?
It's funny, but because I never really knew what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be when I grew up. Even though I did like the things that I like now, like I did enjoy, decorating and interior design and flowers, but I didn't link them to kind of a
But it
career.
was there.
But it was there. And unfortunately, my parents did not.
Middle Eastern kids.
Exactly. They did not, understand what my strengths were and maybe steer me or direct me in that direction. I come from a typical Middle Eastern family. I'm the eldest of four. I'm the only girl.
Okay.
And my father basically wanted me to be a banker because that was the glamorous
sensible
thing.
job.
Yeah, it's like, oh, my daughter is a banker.
Yeah, worked in finance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the 90s when,
Okay.
it was really...
I was lawyer,
exactly.
doctor,
Yeah.
Engineer.
engineer. and then sort of the financy, economics, that sort of thing. You had to be one of those.
Right.
Prestige.
Well, you know, I always say my mom got 2 out of 3. She got her lawyer and she got her finance guru, and then she has me, who went off with the fairies
Yeah,
and
of
wanted to
course.
create things.
But exactly, and I think now we have a total shift in the way, like I'm a mother of 3, and I'm like, do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
It's I don't want you to be a lawyer. You want to be a lawyer, go be a lawyer. And in fact,
Yeah.
my eldest decided to go into law school, but I
their
didn't want
choice.
him to be. It's his choice. So being the good girl that I am, like, yes, I will listen to what my father and mother want me to do, and I'll go to business school and I'll.
Did you have a desire, not a desire, but were you good at finance? Were you good at
I was.
Okay.
I was. I mean, I'm the kind of person that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I won't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like that. I don't
Okay.
dabble in things. I either do them and I perfect them, or I'm not doing them. So, and I'm very competitive by nature, and I always want to be ahead and be the teacher's pet. So yeah, I did well, and I was doing well, but it was not me. I started my career and I started working in a bank, and I was not happy because
What was your
something
first
felt
day?
missing.
Do you remember your first day and your first job in banking?
Yes, I remember. I started in the current accounts department, teller,
Literally at the front desk.
front desk.
Wow.
Yes, and back then, everything was more manual, and
True story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like that manual kind of work, and then I moved up, and then I became a credit officer working in the credit department, and that was rescheduling loans and restructuring loans and mortgages, and it was such an unhappy department because you're basically.
You're trying to solve problems, I guess.
Solve problems. People are in financial trouble. People
Yeah.
can't meet their loans. You literally follow up on people, and they're not paying their installments, and that's not me. I'm a happy person.
How
I'm a
did that make you
positive person.
feel? I was going to say, how did that make you feel?
I was really unhappy. It was. I wake up in the morning not wanting to go to work, but because I'm such a
You don't give up.
I don't give up, and I'm very task oriented as well. I was like, no, you get up, you go to work, you get
This
it
is the
done.
job.
Yeah, suck it up.
Yeah.
And I just did not think to myself that you're not happy, leave or quit. I didn't, and I was ready to continue on
But you
this
weren't
path.
allowed to. You weren't
No, we
allowed
don't. We
to have those
weren't
feelings.
exactly. We were the generation that you can't quit. Quitting is for losers.
Yeah,
it's a
what
sign
is
of
that?
weakness.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
weakness.
failure.
We
Yeah.
were
and those
taught
emotions are not allowed.
exactly. You're not allowed those emotions. The only, I think the only thing that saved me from that was becoming a mother. Then I had a reason.
But one step back, did you have a moment sitting at the teller or at your desk or any of that where you just sat there going, I just can't do this?
No.
Did you ever have a moment?
No, because you don't allow yourself that.
Yeah.
But-
You don't go there.
So you didn't even allow it with yourself at least?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, that's harsh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not healthy, is it?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then it was only until I became a mother and a week before I was due to go back to work, I just looked at my baby and I was like, there's no way I can leave a 5-week-old.
How many years later was this after starting?
Like 4 years.
Okay.
I was like, it's impossible for me to go back to work, leave him home. I'm going to miss out on so much.
Yeah.
I don't have the heart. I was still struggling with postnatal depression as well. I had a very rough delivery, so physically I was not.
Okay, we've just had about 5 massive nuggets
Yes.
that we're gonna come back to. So just to dissect that, so getting pregnant at that time, you only got a month, right?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks was all you got for maternity leave.
Right.
Just nothing.
Nothing, especially not, especially as a
And that's 6 weeks in. That's in the lead up and post
Yeah. Of
combined.
course,
all of it.
Yeah.
So you get to choose when to use that 6 weeks.
So how long before giving birth did you sort of finish off at
So
work?
I had vacation days. So I was able to take my annual vacation.
Yeah.
And I basically stopped working 8 months, and I had my 9th month. I took my 1 month vacation, and then it was the 6 weeks.
Wow.
So all in all, it would have been 7 weeks, and I had to have an emergency C-section, which
Oh,
meant
wow.
that I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't physically
Yeah.
in a state to
in
go
a state
back.
to even go back to work.
Because you're still healing at that
Exactly,
point.
you're still healing,
But also emotionally.
right?
And
Yeah.
is that so? One side of it was the dealing with the emotion of, like if you're doing an emergency C-section, that means the child was in danger at some point.
Yes,
So-
me and the child, like
Oh,
both of us
wow.
were, and it was after 72 hours of
Oh
labor,
wow!
and so I had both. I had everything that went along with like a natural birth, and then an emergency
And
section.
then into-
So I had to kind of endure both.
Yeah.
Did they give you epidural at this point, or
I did, but it was like after, because I basically started going into labor, but I wasn't dilating. So maybe it's TMI, but
no? We
But-
TMI
talk about
on the
everything.
show all the time.
But so they can only give you the epidural once you get to
A certain
state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really
Getting
getting
there.
there fast enough, and I was being induced, and it was
So there's physical pain here.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
substantial
exactly.
pain.
And there is trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
what I
whole
was going to say,
trauma
what was going on for you at that
of
point?
The baby in distress, you're exhausted, you're tired. I hear my mother is near a nervous breakdown outside because my mother lost a child at childbirth. So she was panicking that was going to
For
happen
you.
to me, and
Yeah.
she knows, because she's experienced it, she knows how devastating that is,
Yeah.
and her worry for
The
her own
fear.
child
Yeah.
having to go through that.
And was your husband
He was
with you?
me. He was. Yes, he was.
Hard.
And then, it's like the decision to, okay, what are our options here? And, the doctors are telling you, okay, we can either do, suction, we can either, like force the baby.
Yeah.
And it's like being bombarded with all these decisions.
And then
as a
not knowing.
not knowing. This is the first time. Do we do this? Is it okay? Will it hurt the child? So eventually it got to the point where it was no longer a choice. It was getting dangerous. Like my uterus
They
stopped
had to-
contracting.
they had to take over.
The baby was in distress. That's it. We're wheeling you in for an emergency C-section. And having been through that, coming out of it, I was like, why do we even bother with natural childbirth? I was like, again, it's conditioning that you will be a bad mother.
If
If
you,
you have a
don't do it
C-section. Yeah.
naturally.
You
You
are
failed.
not going to be, you failed.
Yeah. Because you've not gone through the natural process.
Exactly, because we were taught that going through that makes you a better mother, makes you love your child, and you have all of that, and you deal with that guilt after. Oh, I couldn't have a natural birth, hence I am not, the mother I need to
Wow.
be because I couldn't have a natural childbirth, and I'm not going to bond with my child
Wow.
in the same way as if I would have had that. But 3 kids later, and
How did the what are they called? The not the nurses, the
Midwives.
Midwives. How
Yes.
did they treat you? I'm very curious at this because they can be pretty lethal. Those
they could, but to be honest, they were
were good?
amazing.
Okay.
I had really good midwives. I
Okay.
mean, they were so good that I really didn't want to leave the hospital.
Okay,
It
'cause-
was like, can I stay with them? Can I take them home? They really took.
because
really
I've had
good care.
friends that have
Yeah,
had
they're
the
horror
worst
stories.
experiences with
Wow.
Yeah,
as in
yeah.
they give you the guilt.
Yeah, they do. Sometimes they do. And you're going through all of that, and you're so unwell. And
Sorry to all the good midwives out there.
Yeah.
let's be clear.
Because there are some. There's
Yeah,
many, I'm sure.
There are many.
Yeah. So, having gone through all of that, and then 6 weeks later, you're expected to be on your desk doing your job.
Not just that. 6 weeks later, going to a job you hate.
Exactly. So
Is it really worth it?
Exactly. So I was battling a week, and I said to my husband, I said, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can go back. And I was lucky enough to be in a position and have the privilege to quit my job.
Okay.
Not a lot of women can.
Yeah.
This is very true.
Somebody, in a different situation would have had to suck it up
Suck
and
it
go
up
back
and
to
go.
work. And I'm sure many, many women have to.
Okay. The postnatal. You said postnatal depression. Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yes,
Because
of
there'd be a
course.
lot of women that would
Yes. Yeah.
love to hear the experience and to share it. Because all these sorts of things, it's like you're not allowed to talk about it. Women go through so many different things, and it's just not
something which we mentioned, guilt, as we
Yes.
mentioned as a word. I think we'll allude on to that in a
so
second after your
can
question.
you talk us through all of this?
So
How does it kick in? How do you know you've got it?
So, I really wanted the pregnancy. I really wanted to have a baby. It's not that, it happened or it was not. No, I really wanted to have a baby. And, we couldn't conceive when we first started trying.
Yeah.
It took me 2 to 3 years to conceive.
Wow.
So by the time I felt pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, like it was such a happy thing that we finally felt pregnant, and it was something I really wanted. However, I think one of the issues that we have, I mean, it's changing now, I think, with social media and people oversharing, and is no one prepares you for what's to come. You have no idea. All you see is that rosy picture of you with a baby. Remember the Kodak baby?
Yeah.
We all think we're going to end up with the Kodak baby, that, beautiful. And, when children are first born, they're not like that. They don't look like that.
They scream, they cry, they
Exactly.
need attention, they
And
don't sleep.
No, and no one tells you that you're going to be sleep deprived. No one tells you how hard it's going to be physically to take care of a child.
Especially after a C-section.
Exactly. And no matter how much support you have, no one can support what you're going through internally. So it's always a rosy picture. You're always, it's going to be amazing being a mother, and showing you the glamorous side. There's nothing glamorous about having children and what follows after. It's not glamorous. Like having the whole process. And some women might disagree with me and say that being pregnant and having the baby was such a magical time. There's nothing magical
Because it's such a...
about that.
Yeah, but it's true.
But that's honest.
Yes.
It is,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's what I like. It's honest.
Because some people have very difficult pregnancies.
Exactly.
I think
And
just going back to my sister, I think she had a difficult one. Like sickness and
Oh.
illness in the lead up to
I
it.
mean,
and
even
then-
if it's not even if it's a normal pregnancy,
It's still...
it's still tough.
Yeah.
It's still stuff. It's what your body has
Your
to
body
go
changes.
through, all the changes that you
Yeah.
go through. And again, no matter how much you read, or you can't be prepared for that. So as much as I wanted the pregnancy, and as ecstatic as I was with having my first baby, going through that difficult delivery was, of course, difficult. But then what sets in is the postpartum depression that, again, you have no idea.
So what is that? What is it?
It's a constant feeling of helplessness, sadness, and inability to see the bright side.
That's hard.
Yeah, especially at a period of time where, as
Well,
you
you-
mentioned previously, the preconception is that this is such a beautiful experience and the birds should be singing and it's all amazing.
And
But
then
also
you
it was
think-
something you wanted so much.
Yeah.
And then you think to yourself, what's wrong with me? Why am I not happy? Why am I sad?
How long did it take you to ask yourself that question?
It took me a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Because it's just like the wave of emotion that, and then, every time you'd look at your baby, you'd think to yourself, how am I going to take care of him? Like, it's like, you're so scared. Everything is scaring you. Why is he crying? Is he breathing? Like I would like check to see if he's breathing when he's sleeping. Every noise. I mean, they tell you sleep like a baby. Babies are the worst sleepers. Like they make so much noise. They're like grunting and and they're not peaceful at all. And it's like every time a noise, it's like, is he choking?
Is he okay?
Yeah.
Is he alive? Is he breathing?
And there's that fear of you not being able to take care of this, helpless little thing that's yours, and his whole existence lies in your hands.
You're
And
responsible for that now.
You're responsible for that.
Does
Yeah.
resentment come into it at all? I know it's an odd question to ask.
I've heard some mothers speak of resentment.
Okay.
I did not. I didn't resent
Okay.
I did not have those feelings. The feeling I had was guilt.
Yeah.
That as much as I had wanted this baby, I am not happy. I'm miserable right now.
Yeah.
And why am I miserable? I should be so happy. And you feel you're almost embarrassed to talk to anyone about those feelings. And I remember I didn't want my husband to feel how
Oh,
miserable
wow,
I am.
you didn't even share it with him. So you,
I mean,
you suffered in silence at the beginning.
He's very attuned to my emotions and feeling, and he knows how to read me. But I try to protect him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I try to, put on a brave face, and not because I don't want to drag him into this, because I know that it's a spiral. And, if I dragged him into it, especially because he cares so much about me and my
Yeah.
feelings. So I would go into the bathroom and just sob inside, but just finish my crying session and just come out and try to be as normal as I possibly can. It didn't last long with me. It didn't last long. I know it lasts a lot longer with a lot of women. I know some women get suicidal as well.
Is it quite common?
Yeah,
It's very
a lot more
common.
common than people realize.
Yeah.
Really? Because you don't really... I mean, you hear about it, obviously, but it's not really...
The thing is, I think a
about.
part of it, like, I can't speak, I'm not a mother, but I think a part of it is the fact that people sort of excuse it. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this way because I'm tired.
Right.
I'm feeling this way because, I don't understand.
And that's what people say. You're like, your mother
You're
or your
fine.
grandmother, they'd be like, it's okay, you're sleep deprived.
Yeah. And
It's not sleep deprivation. It's deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that. It's
Yeah.
not about, yes, you're
Glossed
sleep deprived,
over.
you're tired, you don't have time to eat, you don't have time to shower, yes, all of that. But it's much deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's not just, and also you have to consider the fluctuations in your hormones
Everybody's
are enough.
all over.
They're all over.
You got a
I've had them
Molotov
for-
cocktail of hormones and emotions going on here.
Yeah, and there's so much that's happening. If you're breastfeeding, that's another added,
Yeah.
toll on you, and it's. I think it's mostly the guilt of
Yeah.
why am I feeling like that? I should be extremely happy right now. I just had a baby, and you feel guilty. You feel like you're rejecting that child, or that you're being ungrateful. So many women would kill to have a baby and they can't have a baby. But here you are with your baby and you're miserable. But you have to remember, it's not your fault. The way you're feeling is not your fault. And it is temporary.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you realize that you were suffering postnatal? Did you sort of go, okay, this isn't right, I'm going to go see my doctor, or you sort of self-diagnose? Then
You don't see doctors back then. it
So
wasn't a thing
how
that
did you understand that
I
there was something
I
completely
read I
wrong?
read a lot, and I'm
Okay.
the kind of person that when there's something, like, I research a lot, and I try. And at the time, like, boards were a thing. There were all these boards where people would go and speak about
Yep.
like
Yep.
similar things.
Yep.
And I was part of a lot of boards, especially in my journey to conceive a baby. Just to read about mothers with similar kind of experiences, and you begin to realize that so many women go through this.
Yeah.
And it's normal and it's okay. Of course, speaking to my mother who told me that this is something normal and it's natural.
But did
and,
you speak to your mom about how
I
you were
did,
feeling?
but very not in depth.
No.
Not to the point where you would like sit and pour your heart out, and again, it's all, and like for example, growing up, my mother is a very strong woman. She's one of the strongest women I know. And to her, crying is like a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Sounds like just the Middle Eastern culture, full stop. We
Yeah, I think stronger in the Middle East, but I think it's a culture which you still have
well,
in
when
other
you're
parts of the
speaking,
world.
but when you're speaking, then I'm like, I know it.
Yeah, yeah,
we it wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it.
I get
you just
that.
did it. You just didn't go
It's like
there.
you have to be strong.
Yeah.
You just have to be strong. You
It's
have
like-
to suck it up and bottle
Mental
it
health
in.
did not exist.
No,
I think it's kind of like a generational thing here, because sometimes in other parts of the world they've moved on a little bit quicker.
I think our culture is the Middle Eastern culture is
still a bit resistant.
Still a bit resistant. It's,
Yeah.
It will change and
and
it
then
will
it
evolve eventually.
will. It definitely
It is,
will
it
because
is.
you also have, the world's become smaller and smaller. There's a lot more cultures coming together.
course.
Like for my generation and my brother's generation, we're the first generation in our family that have ended up with partners who aren't Iranian.
Yeah.
So that sort of changes things. So that culture kept going. So now we're
Cross,
introduced
yeah.
to cross culture,
Yeah.
which helps that
Yeah.
growth to break those sort of, isms that just weren't taboos that
Yeah.
weren't good.
Yeah.
Mental
you-
health didn't exist.
Yeah, true. You mentioned you got through it eventually, and your experience
Yeah.
was relatively short. Did you got 3 children? So with the following pregnancies, was it a similar experience or completely different?
No, I would say my first was the hardest because you
don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
But did you just snap out of it? So what do you mean you came out of
So
it?
basically, I think that the important thing for me was to, I started working out and exercising and trying to put my child on a routine and, try to get back to life as well.
But how did you emotionally heal?
It
How did
just
the
kind
sad-
of just happened.
Okay,
Yeah.
so by doing
Yeah,
all those different
exactly.
things, slowly.
To try and
Okay.
and I think a big chunk of it also was not, that daunting, I think, feeling of having to leave him and go back to work.
Yeah.
That was
That helped a
that
lot.
helped a
Okay.
lot, knowing
Okay.
I can take my time, and my husband supported with my decision. It's like, you don't have to go back to work, send in your resignation, stay at home for as long as you want to stay at home. And I think that kind of
Really helped.
slowly started to help me. But I think with my subsequent pregnancies, of course, I did, but not as severe.
Yeah.
It wasn't as severe, and I think it was mainly because I now knew what
Yeah.
to expect. When you know what you're expecting and you are ready for it,
Yeah.
and it's not your first time doing it, you now have the experience. I think it's also chartering the unknown and that feeling of, is this going to be my life? This is me for the
Yeah,
rest
for the
of
rest of my life.
Is this how I'm going to look?
Yeah.
Like, look at yourself in the mirror and it's like nothing is in place. And you're like,
And tired.
you're not pregnant, but you're not pregnant. You
Yeah.
still look pregnant, but
Yeah.
it's not a
Your body has
pregnancy.
changed massively.
Your body, exactly. And it's like you feel that your body's not going to go back to normal. Your mental health isn't going to go back to your entire life. You're not going to be able to live your life as you knew it before having the baby. You do definitely have to expect that life changes after children.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that it changes.
Well, it doesn't mean
For
that
the worst.
it doesn't mean that you're gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. You can still go back to what you were, and I think at the first pregnancy is not knowing. It's like, so I'm never gonna sleep. I'm never going to have time. I am never going to be able to have any freedom. I'm never going to be able to shake off this feeling. It just, those kind of, thoughts that kept. But then after you've gone through
So-
it, you realize that no, this
Your
is temporary.
your second child was how many years later?
Three and a half.
So 3.5 years.
Yes.
Got back. So, but
And
so,
you bounce back a lot quicker.
like, after the
On the
second
second
one.
one.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, because again,
That's
you,
good news for
You
the
know.
ladies out there.
You do. And I
But even
think
physically.
everything.
Everything. Wow.
I think because you know a lot more, and like I said, it's expectations.
Yeah.
Like when you're expecting something, you're prepared for it, and you're now resilient. Like now, like it's like, well, okay, I'm not sleeping at night. That's okay because
you weren't
You've done it
dreading
before and you survived.
you survived it.
Yeah.
But you weren't dreading it, knowing that you might have to go through it again.
Do you know something? I think if we were wired to dread it, I don't think you'll have
that's the
another
thing.
child.
Yeah.
You know when they tell you forget,
You forget.
You really do.
Okay.
It's very true, isn't it? It's like in life, in many experiences, you have a very bad experience,
Yeah.
but then eventually you do forget, or
do.
you move on from
Otherwise,
it.
you can't have another. If you're going to remember
Yeah.
how difficult it
never
was,
do it.
You'd never
you'll
have children
do it
again, and other women would never
and
have
certainly
children.
not 3 or 4.
Yeah.
You'll never. But like they actually got easier.
Okay.
My third was the easiest.
Okay.
And also, you're a seasoned mom. Like now you know
Yeah.
what works and what doesn't, and you can do it off the back of your hand. You're so good at it.
Yeah.
It's like practice makes perfect. With your first, it's just like it's an experiment, and you're both learning.
Hope
You
that
know?
hope that
Like a
it doesn't
successful
break.
one.
Yes,
Yeah, of course.
exactly.
All right, so beautiful, 3 kids, all that stuff. But truly, for someone who always nails at anything that they do, there must have been an itch to start working again.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I stayed home for a couple of years. And then by then I started, like you said, itching to get back. My husband and I are very close, and like we talk everything through, and it's like, okay, I do want to go back to work, and so at the time he had just opened a new business, and he basically was like, do you want to come work with me? And a lot of people tell you, oh, that's a bad idea to work with your
Could go
husband.
either way.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
go either way, but no, it went well. And he's like, you get to, it's your own timings. You work around Zane's schedule, our son. And I was like, okay, So I went to work with him, and it was our business, and
And what was it?
so he was basically working with a luxury furniture company based in Italy. So he opened a regional office here in Dubai, and they basically supply really high-end luxury furniture, contract commercial and residential.
So you still got to be around sort of creativity, which was nice for you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
creativity and beautiful things. So I did that for a while, and then I fell pregnant with my second, had my second, and then by the time I had my second in 2005. By 2007, I was starting to itch for something that's mine.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed working with him, and it was great, and it took off, and he was doing very well with it. But I just felt like, you know what? I kind of want to do something that fulfills me and makes me happy. And it was actually his idea. He recognized my strengths. He understood that I would be good at planning events. I would be good at designing beautiful things because I had a flair for it. I had a knack for it. And he knows me so well that he knows that I have the right qualities and traits to be able to do this for a living. And he basically said, perhaps you should look into starting events, become an event planner. And it had never crossed my mind. And I'd always helped my friends like plan their weddings, or I helped my brother-in-law plan his wedding. I loved throwing dinner parties and
Hosting.
So when he said it,
Yeah.
so when he said it to you, how did it land?
It was like okay. This isn't something I'd ever thought about. And mind you, we weren't talking weddings.
No, just events.
It was just events. And it just so happened that they were actually launching a furniture showroom for the same company that he was partners with. And he said, you know what? I'll give you your first event.
There you go. Do the
we
launch.
We need a showroom launch. Do it.
Wow. And that was your first gig?
Yes.
And the rest is history?
The rest is
There's
history.
something to be
Wow.
said about supportive partners, hey?
Yes.
100%.
And I wouldn't be here without him.
Oh, that'll be a podcast in the
Shout out,
future.
yeah, 100%.
As you started to build that business, because I think when we were talking on our call, did that guilt ever come back in? You experienced guilt previously. Did
Yeah.
it ever come back in as someone trying to run a business, but also raise a family?
Absolutely. The fact that you're not always there, that you've at times had to miss important things. With our industry, there's no fixed timing.
24/7.
24/7. It's weekends. And to sometimes having to miss things at school, for example, or milestones in their life because you have a responsibility. You have to be working. It's always there in the back of your mind. It's always nagging you. It was a little bit easier for me because I kind of was doing my own thing, and I could work around their schedules and try as much as possible to be there for everything that they needed to do in their lives. But you're always struggling with that.
Yeah.
As a mother, you'll always be
So
struggling with
how
that.
do you digest that?
Now, 15 years later, my kids, as old as they are, it was the best thing that I could have done for myself and for them,
Why?
because you become a role model. You set
Yeah.
an example. You actually have also done something for yourself. I know a lot of moms that deal with resentment. I dedicated my whole life to
I
raising
can
my children,
imagine.
and my children have left me and gone off.
And then you're left with nothing.
And you're left with nothing. You haven't built something that's yours to help
Yeah.
you cope with this new
very important.
eventuality.
Because at some point, when they say
Well,
when the
it's
children
empty
leave the
nest,
nest,
Well, they-
you're left with
Exactly.
a diminished role, I guess, in a way.
And I'll tell you, when my eldest went off to university, it was one of the hardest things that I've had to do, leaving him and heading back home.
Yeah.
It literally felt like someone was ripping my heart out. And it was a very, very difficult time for
It
me.
must be like grief in a way.
It's
It's like you're
exact-
losing
What's it,
somebody,
you know,
but you're
they
not.
say
Like you're still
it-
physically
it's-
here.
it's like
Do you know
it's
what?
mourning a
It
death.
was interesting because I still remember the night before we were, leaving to come back to Dubai, and he's in the US, and I was sobbing in bed, and my husband looked at me and said, he's going to school, he's starting a new life. You're behaving as if you've lost your child.
you're like, "But I have."
But that's how you felt.
But that's how I felt at the time. And if it weren't for my business and for how busy I was, when I came back home, I don't think I would have recovered. I think it would have taken me a long time. I think I would have struggled. But I was able to kind of, get back to work and that kind of helped me cope with that, the fact that my son has left home. Now, number 2 is leaving home this summer.
How's that feeling? Is it a similar feeling or different?
It's starting, and I think it will be a similar feel. I don't think it's going to be different. Again, but the expectation, you know what to expect this time.
So you got the tools. You got your tools.
I've got the tools, but it will be hard. But I think it's like thinking to yourself that, no, you still were able to give your children your time and your energy and be there for them, but you still also focused on building something that's yours that you could fall back on and not have that feeling of I dedicated my whole life and and resent them for it. And there are times where mothers like, I dedicated my whole life.
They wish they could have done something.
And it's like, now you're leaving me because I don't want to be that mom.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's at the end of the day, you made the choice to, God, I might get shot for saying this, but you made the choice to be a mother.
Right.
Right? The decisions you make on what type of mother you want to be is
Correct.
yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not something you can put on
very
someone
true.
No.
else. It's and when
You're living your life.
Yeah. When I
have
hear parents or parents saying that to their child,
or guilting them.
it's
I was gonna say,
so
'cause there should be no
unfair.
guilt
But
at
it
that. That's
is-
very
but it is guilt on them
reasonable,
because
a
you
reasonable
feel
expectation.
that it's like, hold on a minute. So, but you gave me all of these opportunities. You gave me all of these tools. Now it's time for me to go out there and do the
Correct.
best I can with it.
Exactly.
Don't forget the parents. Don't sort of go and
No,
never come
of
back.
course
But
not,
you
no.
know,
But the relationship
Yeah.
changes, and it's
interesting.
bittersweet.
Yeah.
Very.
It's a bittersweet experience. It's like, this is what you've prepared them for.
Mm.
This is, you fulfilled your role and your job, and you're sending them off into the world, and you should be so proud and happy of the
Yeah.
people they've become, and allow them to spread their wings and go do all the great things that you've prepared them for. But I think a lot of times it's also, they didn't ask you to not focus on a career or to
Yeah.
start something.
It was your choice.
It was by choice, so it's not their fault.
And that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
these are the choices you made for your life.
But you know what I think it is? A lot of mothers are scared that their children will resent them. But they do
won't.
not.
Resent them for working and
Yes,
resent them
that
for
you
not
weren't
being
there.
available.
You're not
There.
available. You weren't there. You were always working, But actually, like my 3 boys are so proud of what I've done and their eyes light up when
Yeah.
they talk about what their mom does and they always tell me how proud they are and how. I mean, just 2 days ago, my eldest, who's here for summer, and he said to me, Mom, you work so hard. I want to have your work ethic. I want to work as hard as you do, but I don't think I can live up to that. But again, you're setting an example.
You've fulfilled your obligation as a mother,
Right.
and you've provided them
Yes.
a role model
Yeah.
to be successful in the future.
And for boys to see their mother,
True.
working, and to see how their father supports their mother, again, that
It's
will
very
make them
healthy.
better partners and better
Yeah.
husbands.
Very healthy.
Better men.
Well,
exactly.
you're giving them the best version of you.
Yeah, 100%.
Now I've had about 3
The signals
saying
signal of
wrap
wrapping
up,
up.
and this is this to me this is a lovely place to wrap it up. That as a mother, being the best version of yourself is the greatest gift you can give to your children.
100%. Yes.
Cool. On that
Wonderful
very
story.
positive note, Zainab, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you for
in.
coming in.
Thank
No,
you.
it's really
Good
beautiful,
luck
really
with the second
inspiring.
one heading
Yes,
out.
yes, that's in a couple of months. They're guests with us, and it's
Yeah.
their
Must be
time
nice to
is-
have them home.
It is, and actually, the relationship changes.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to the eldest one leaving?
No, I
No,
never
okay.
look forward to them leaving.
I don't know, because sometimes, just slightly off, when I go home, my mum's looking forward to me leaving again sometimes. She's like,
I
I
know.
eat everything from the fridge, I leave everything around. She's like, okay,
But
can you go
it's
now?
more of quality time that you
Of
start to
course.
spend with them.
My
You don't
mom's
take it
like,
for granted.
I'm only a mother. Whenever I go home, she's like, I'm only a mother 2 weeks a year.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh my God, you're
guilt.
killing me. I go, I
Guilt.
love you. I'm on my way.
Guilt.
I'll see Mum tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Flying back to Oz. But on that note, thank you
Yes.
so
Yeah,
much
Zainab,
for
thank you
coming
so
in.
much.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing
Pleasure.
your story.
Thank you.
Welcome to Rooted Within with Lili and Dan, a podcast that shines a spotlight on positive change makers sharing their stories of legacy, inspiration, and impact.